Welcome to Collider Movie Talk for movie fans. I'm your host, Ashley Mova, and this is the daily show where we give you all the latest news from the world of movies, plus some insight into what it all means. Leading off the show today, Mark Ellis.
Welcome one and all to the best movie news show in the entire galaxy. We hope you guys enjoyed your long weekend. If you, in fact, did not have to work yesterday on Memorial Day, I am thrilled to be joined on this Taco Tuesday by perhaps the best-looking panel I've ever seen in my life. It's like the 1927 Yankees or this panel here today. Ashley, introduce us to this murderer's row.
Also here, Jon Schnepp.
Why, hello, everyone. How's it going?
You sound great.
Hey.
Also here, Clarke Wolfe.
Hey guys, good morning.
Also here, Dennis Zen.
Yeah, well, actually, I'm not on the panel today.
No.
I am
Joining us for a little bit.
I'm joining you guys for a little bit because we have a couple of announcements and some things that people have been talking. We've been talking about. I mentioned, I don't know, maybe a couple months ago about a new horror talk show that we were going to do, and I thought it, appropriate for me to be on this panel so that we could talk about it. And just want to let you guys know, starting next Tuesday, we are going to start our Collider horror show, which is going to be called Collider Nightmares. And not only that, since we have a person who is really into horror here on the panel today, I'd like to let her talk a little bit more about the show that she will be hosting.
Yay! Hi guys, that would be me. Nice to see you. So yeah, Collider Nightmares starts next week, and I am so excited for this. It's been in the works for a long time, kind of independent of Collider. I've been trying to do something like this for a long time, and it all finally came together. I wore my Jason necklace special just for the occasion. So I just wanted to say the reason that we're calling it Collider Nightmares is because yes, we will focus so much on horror, but basically we want to talk about, horror, sci-fi, some thrillers. We're gonna have a lot of conversation there. So if you don't necessarily say, well, I'm not a horror fan, you still might really like this show. I think we're gonna have a lot of really interesting discussions, but of course, horror will be our main focal point. And movies, TV, games, comics, whatever. We've got a lot to work with. So I'm really excited about it.
I'm very jazzed to just watch this show. I mean, one day I would like to be a guest on Collider Nightmares if, you have a spot for me. But I know you guys have a stacked show. Just to kick things off next week, it's going to be you, and then the special guests are going to be Mark Riley and our own Jon Schnepp, right?
Mr. Jon Schnepp sitting right here.
Yeah, and as well as Perry Nemiroff.
Yes,
so
and Perry will be on with us every week.
Of horror fans. Eventually, we'll let Ellis join the crew. And, no, Ellis will be on there. We're going to just talk about horror. I'm excited to be on the show with Clarke. She's a super horror aficionado. We've had many discussions about horror films, so I'm happy to be on it. And we're moving Heroes to Wednesday. Why Wednesday? Because it is the geekiest day of the week. It is the day comics come out. It's Wednesday, and my schedule had to move it to Wednesday, unfortunately. So all you nerds and sweaties out there are going to have to wait that extra day.
I have to wait an extra day.
I have to wait one extra day. But there's extra news as well that'll be available, because I found that making the show notes on Monday, every time I would finish my notes, Jimmy Kimmel would drop another trailer. Like it would be Avengers. It'd be like, what's next? Spider-Man, dude? It's like, so every time I'd write these show notes, literally I had 4 extra things I had to add on Tuesday night. And sometimes we couldn't do it because we already shot the show. So anyway, we're going to be moving to Wednesday, and so definitely check out Collider Nightmares on Tuesday, and then Collider Heroes on Wednesday, and of course Jedi Council on Thursday. So that's our slate that's going to be rocking.
You got a stacked week, y'all.
Yeah, so now we have shows on every day of the week.
That's right.
Aside from just movie talk. So Tuesday, about 5 p.m. Pacific time, we'll have Collider Nightmares. Wednesday, 5 p.m. Pacific time, we'll have Heroes, just to let you guys know. And now I'm going to be leaving.
Just like a puff. Dennis graces us with his presence, and then he's gone, much like me at the Memorial Day barbecue yesterday. I show up, I eat as many hot dogs, drink as many beers as I can, and I'm out before you even knew I was there.
And then you and me took I took a picture with you as you were leaving.
Right.
Yeah, well,
it made it look like we hung out all day.
Here's the thing, is that I might have called my shot a little early, because I announced that I'm going to leave, and then Christian, we had a barbecue at Christian's place yesterday, and then Christian's wife was like, but you didn't even have the s'mores yet. And I'm like, well, you didn't put them out. Like, you can't be the guy that's like, oh, I'm going to leave. Then you hear there's some more. It's going to be like, okay, I don't want to talk to any of you guys anymore. Just going to sit in the corner and wait for the s'mores and then get them to
You
go.
just take yours to go. Exactly. I will take mine to go.
I missed out on the s'mores yesterday, but luckily you guys don't have to miss out any longer on some very exciting movie news stories that we have for y'all today. There's been a lot of stuff that went down the last few days, but as we always like to do on the first show of the week, we kick off with the box office report. So Ashley, let's crunch some numbers.
After the long holiday weekend, it's time for the weekend box office report brought to you by our friends at AMC Theatres. Fox's X-Men Apocalypse and Disney's Alice Through the Looking Glass squared off over Memorial Day weekend, with a clear winner being crowned in X-Men Apocalypse. The latest mutant adventure topped the weekend, earning $65.3 million over the 3 days and $80 million over 4 days for an easy #1 spot. The other wide release, Alice Through the Looking Glass, took in $26.9 million over the 3-day weekend, with a total of $34.1 over the 4-day weekend for the #2 spot, a not so favorable start for a film with a $170 million production budget. Sony's The Angry Birds movie took in $18.7 million for the 3-day and $24.6 million in 4 days for the #3 spot, bringing in domestic total of $66.3 million. Captain America Civil War took the #4 spot with $15.1 million in 3 days and $19.4 million for the 4-day weekend. Universal's Neighbors 2 Sorority Rising rounded out the #5 spot, dropping a steep 58% for $99.2 million in 3-day sales and $11.4 million total for the 4-day weekend. Mark, thoughts on the holiday weekend box office results?
Well, Ashley, my thoughts are that X-Men Apocalypse, you did just fine, okay? You're not going to do Days of Future Past numbers, both, and critically, it wasn't as well received as Days of Future Past was, but I think CinemaScore had audiences enjoying X-Men Apocalypse, so maybe that does get some positive word of mouth week to week. I was concerned that there was going to be somewhat of a superhero fatigue because you had Batman v Superman in March, and then you had Civil War. So there's a lot of movies with a ton of superheroes in them, and maybe people got a little tired of that. I don't know that had a huge effect on this box office, though. It clearly shows that there's still a whole lot of X-Men fans out there that are dying to see these movies as soon as they come out. I mean, the bigger story this week to me is the non-performance of Alice Through the Looking Glass, which I never wanted to see personally. I don't think a lot of people did. I don't think this was a sequel that people were clamoring for. I think this one and Huntsman Winter's War are going to be remembered as like maybe the two biggest bombs of 2016. But what Huntsman Winter's War didn't have to deal with is all this other stuff that is swirling in the news this weekend between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. And I don't know what all the facts of the case is. Nobody really does. Maybe that stuff comes out eventually. We don't know. There was some very strong allegations against Johnny Depp that his lawyers denied very feverishly as well. That cannot help when you're trying to promote a movie, when Johnny Depp is the biggest star in the movie and the Mad Hatter is the guy that you're relying on for a lot of your marketing. So I think that's one of the many reasons why Alice Through the Looking Glass did not do as well as the studios hoped. But apparently it was tracking at like $60 million to open. Who is doing the tracking? Who does tracking anymore? Because the last couple of years, box office tracking has become a very inexact science. Like, people miss all the time whether they shoot way low or they shoot way high. That clearly was the case with Through the Looking Glass. And then obviously you can't account for all the stuff that was in the papers this weekend. So, Clarke, I'll turn it over to you first. You look at this top 5, which Angry Birds coming in at a solid 3rd as well. What stands out to you the most?
Yeah, I mean, I think Alice is definitely the thing that's the most important topic of conversation in terms of box office. I'm wondering too, the first film did so well. I mean, exceedingly well. And I wonder if it's an issue of timing. Maybe they waited too long to actually get this sequel out. Not to say that people were clamoring for it in the first place, but to me, the idea is the first movie makes $1 billion. This one barely cracks. It doesn't even crack 30 in its 3 days. And the extended weekend obviously got it to 34. But I don't know. I think they waited too long for that. The other thing I wanted to point out is, remember, guys, when I bid $1 on X-Men Apocalypse box office weekend? I mean, I'm just saying.
Do we owe you $1?
You owe me $1.
Owe you $1?
No, now I get to go to the showdown. The showcase showdown. Basically, Christian said he thought it was going to make 80 in its 3 days, and
in its 3 days.
In its 3 days,
and it took it 4 days to make 80.
Exactly.
So.
Yes. So I win.
All right, so Clarke gets $1. Schnepp, I'm not paying you any money because now my pocketbook has been exhausted with those 100 cents. What stands out to you?
Yeah, the the Atlas film stands out. That it got okay. I mean, I was surprised at how many critics actually liked it. I couldn't stand the film.
You were not a fan.
I was not a fan. I don't have to go back into thrashing it again. But the box office did the thrashing for me. It, definitely underperformed. I don't know how much that's tied in with Depp and his real his public persona, or what's going on with any of that. All that's horrible stuff. No matter who's at fault or whatnot, that's horrible news, and that can't bode well for a family picture where husbands and wives want to go and have a good time and not have a dude being accused of things in the film that they're about to see. So I definitely think it did have some kind of effect on it. X-Men not making as much money as everyone thought it was going to make, that with the critical response to it, I don't think there's any superhero fatigue. I just simply think that people are being a little more discerning with what they're going to spend their money on, whether or not it's going to be this or that. I mean, I think people decided not to spend money on Alice in Through the Looking Glass. That's not a superhero film. Remember, we had Deadpool. That was an X-Men film. That made insane amounts of money, and that was in February. Then you had Batman v Superman. Then you had Civil War. X-Men is a totally different kind of superhero film anyway. It gets a different group of the nerd cluster, if you want to say. So it's a different kind of film that's in the superhero genre anyway. It's as different as Kick-Ass is from Civil War. So I just think with the reviews, and it's not such a strong ending for X-Men, that us hearing that Bryan Singer is like, hey, I might take a break for the next film, is a good idea. I think he wants to do 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. He's got a lot of other films he wants to work on, but that's what I think about the box office. I'm glad to see Civil War sticking in there at 15.
Yeah.
So
I mean, do we think that the marketing for X-Men Apocalypse could have been done better? Because I don't think that they're thrilled with this number, over at the studio, over at Fox, because like you said, Deadpool did so well, but that had like the greatest marketing campaign of all time, and it came out in the middle of February,
right,
which is not necessarily a hot spot for films, so that was pretty much your option when you went to the movies in that entire month. X-Men, every week there's going to be competition. Now it's got Turtles looking right down,
right,
and you have Popstar and You Before Me, or Me Before You, what the hell? You can forgive me for not getting that title right. But, I mean, it seems like the marketing for X-Men Apocalypse was like, yeah, it's an X-Men movie and it's coming out, but nothing really stood out, you know?
And I wonder, too, obviously the X-Men franchise is sort of transitioning over their heroes, right? So they're introducing these new, younger crop of actors who are playing these characters. And then they're sort of, I mean, obviously, for instance, Hugh Jackman, we know Wolverine is going to be his last time he's playing Wolverine. So they're like phasing out these actors that audiences have gotten to know over the last 10 years of this franchise. And so speaking to the marketing, I wonder if maybe that had something to do with it. Maybe not being able to recognize Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, and Hugh Jackman in their X-Men garb in the marketing. Maybe that had an effect.
Well, it definitely, I mean, First Class made a chunk of money that only had Hugh Jackman flipping him off, in one scene. It was like, but I think, I would like to see them take that new cast of characters that they introduced in X-Men Apocalypse and not wait 4 years until they're old. I mean, like, just get another one in, shooting now with the brand new Jean Grey and Cyclops and Nightcrawler. I like that new cast, and I'd love to see another X-Men film with just them in it. So, I mean, that would be great. I just don't want to wait 5 years until they figure out what they're doing, because it's like they're all going to be 5 years older. They should just rock that out right now.
I kind of buy into Schnepp's idea. Just everybody who's in the new cast who still wants to be in an X-Men movie, come back and shoot another one. And if you clearly don't want to be in X-Men movies anymore, then we just don't need you. You never have to wear that blue costume again. Don't worry
Who
about
could
it.
Mark be talking about, I wonder?
I'm just
Weird.
saying, hypothetically, if you were a person that didn't feel like coming back to X-Men. By the way, quick side note, The Jungle Book did $7 million this weekend, and that's a movie that came out in the middle of April.
That's crazy.
Well done, Disney. All right, Ash, what's our next story?
Some major shakeups happening in the world of James Bond. According to a report from Birth Movies Death, Tom Hiddleston is in talks for the 25th James Bond film. At the same time, Skyfall Inspector Director Sam Mendes ruled out a return to the director chair, telling reports at the Hay Festival of Literature in Wales that he thinks it's time for somebody else to take over directing. Current Bond actor Daniel Craig has yet to confirm his departure from the iconic role, with previous reports claiming the actor turned down a $68 million offer to stay on after he previously said he would rather slash my wrists than reprise the role. Ooh. BMD also states that Hiddleston is in advanced talks to take over from Craig. Elsewhere, however, Deadline reports that Fantastic Four actor Jamie Bell is being considered as a backup to current Bond actor Daniel Craig. No official word has been given from either actor or from the producers of the James Bond franchise. Clarke, your thoughts on all the potential casting for James Bond?
Well, I think that Tom Hiddleston, for a more classic style James Bond actor, I don't think you could cast somebody better. I think he is the quintessential English gentleman. He's handsome, he's cool, he's funny. He can really, I think he's perfect if you're thinking about an old-fashioned Bond. For me, though, I think that I would rather maybe see a little bit more of a edgy Bond or something a little more contemporary. And I know it's, old news and everybody's been talking about it for years, but I'm slightly disappointed that Idris Elba actually isn't being considered at this point. Daniel Craig's done. You have an opportunity to take this classic spy franchise and do something slightly different with it. I think he would have been a wonderful candidate. And the other thing I wanted to point out about Bond is that, with stuff like Mission Impossible, or you have these other spy franchises that they seem to be keeping up with pop culture. They seem to be evolving. And I know that the Broccolis are very, they control this franchise very closely. But I sincerely think that it would behoove them to maybe think outside the box in terms of going forward. The other thing on that topic that I wanted to point out, Gillian Anderson threw her name into the mix to play a Bond type character, but play Bond herself. And while Gillian Anderson is not English or European, Emilia Clarke, our favorite Khaleesi, threw her name into the mix as well. And I understand if you guys are not going to be okay with Lady Ghostbusters and a Lady James Bond in 1 year. I get that. But I think these types of conversations are kind of cool. And I would definitely like to see an Emilia Clarke James Bond, Jane Bond.
Yeah, I think it's fun to banter around who you think would be a good James Bond and if they wanted to do something very, very different with the franchise. But I also think that Tom Hiddleston is the right choice to be playing James Bond going forward, where, yeah, I think it's great to have more diversity in film, but with a character like James Bond, if you want to go back to a more classic-looking Bond, the guy that we came to know from the Sean Connery and Roger Moore days, then Tom Hiddleston should be your man, or at least one of the top 3 contenders. And from this report that he's in advanced talks, it seems like even with Idris Elba, there's a lot of factors that could go into. First of all, I don't know what his interest in playing Bond is, because when you sign a new James Bond, you don't want to do one for just 1 or 2 movies. You hope to get a nice long run out of whatever actor is doing it. So I think that's where the advanced talk stage starts to come into play, where Hiddleston is like, okay, wait, how many movies are we doing here? Because I have a kind of a busy schedule. I have that other character that I do sometimes with Marvel. So I just want to make sure I can fit everything in. If I can hold that scepter and wear a tux and make everything work out fine in my busy day-to-day, I love this idea. I am on board with Tom Hiddleston playing James Bond. And as far as Sam Mendes departing officially or whatever, that's not big news. It was bigger news that he was going to come back and do another one right after just doing a Bond film, because that hadn't happened recently, where you have a director continue on with the franchise. And $68 million for Daniel Craig to stay. Who is offering Daniel Craig? I love Daniel Craig as James Bond. Who is offering that dude $68 million especially after watching Spectre? That would be like offering Jennifer Lawrence $68 million to stay on his Mystique. It's like, let him go. It's not like we can't sell a new James Bond. That's what we love, is sometimes you get a fresh perspective on James Bond, or in the case of Tom Hiddleston, a more classic spin on it. So Schnepp, how does this news hit your ears?
I was going to say $68 million, but you have to be blue all the time. The whole movie, no complaining about the makeup, but you got it. $68 million. It's in these 5 trucks. We're backing them up right now. All I gotta say is yes.
We don't even turn cameras on. We just give you 8 hours of body makeup, and it takes 5 hours to take that off. Then you go to sleep, and we do the same thing tomorrow.
We just always blue. I totally love the idea of Tom Hiddleston playing James Bond. I think he has that kind of evil roguishness, like this bad boy to him. I don't know if anyone saw High Rise. I highly recommend seeing it, but he's incredible in that film. It's a very strange experimental head trip type of film. But him being the lead star really made that movie work. I think he's a great actor. He has just all those different dimensions to him. He's done incredible Shakespeare where he can memorize things. He's memorized entire books. I don't have any problems with him at all playing James Bond. In fact, I'm glad that Mendes is not continuing because I didn't like Spectre. I thought Skyfall was fantastic. I think they fumbled with Spectre, and I think Daniel Craig is tired of being Bond. It's apparent with all of his complaining about it, and no one likes to hear about people who are like, hey, we like you in this role, and all you're doing is complaining about it. It just makes it kind of like, just go do something else. Craig is really talented. He's a great actor in his own right, so stop being Bond. You've already been Bond 4 times. 2 of them I love, 2 of them I don't like. So you're batting a 50-50. It's time to go. Let Hiddleston take it, right? I really hope they get him.
And Hiddleston wants to do Bond.
Totally.
He's been very outspoken. Something you alluded to earlier, Mark. He wants to do this. And I think if you want to do it,
he's also
that's a
the
good
right
start.
age. I know you mentioned Idris Elba. He's too old.
He's older.
Unfortunately,
He is older.
I think he's too old. It's like he could do one. If they start shooting it next year, it'll come out in 2 years. Then he's almost 60. It's like it's just that age thing where it's like, unfortunately, when you want to have Bond, you want to have at least 4 or 5 Bonds. You're talking about a 10-year commitment.
I don't know, man. That dude ages pretty well.
No, I mean,
he's in better shape than any of
Yeah,
us. Like Idris Elba's not aging horribly at all.
No, he's not.
I do agree with you.
He's
that
a great
Hiddleston
actor.
Is the perfect age. It's right in his wheelhouse.
If they picked Idris Elba, you would hear no complaints from me. But that they are talking to Tom Hiddleston, I think he's a great actor to play James Bond. He has all those elements from Sean Connery, from Roger Moore, from Daniel Craig. He has the best of all those worlds combined into what his personality and his persona can be. So hopefully the Broccolis do update him a little bit, go a little Casino Royale, go a little bit Roger Moore, combine that stuff. I think it'd be really fun. I like the thuggish, brutish Bond, but I also like the slightly villainous kind of, you don't know what he's up to Bond, and also the jokey Bond. So I'd love to see all that.
And it's a great gateway to get more fans, maybe younger fans, into James Bond.
Totally.
If you cast Loki, a guy who is so beloved in the Marvel Universe that appeals to younger fans, if you bring this guy in, who is a fantastic ambassador for whatever project he's in. He has nothing but energy when he shows up at conventions. He's the guy that can capture a room of 6,000 people and have them in the palm of his hand. He loves promoting stuff that he's a fan of, and if he's in it, if he's in James Bond, I hope it's in for the long run for a few movies, because I'd be very excited to see what his take on it is.
Poor Jamie Bell. None of us talked about him. We could not care less. It was in the.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sorry, Jamie.
If
Bell.
I went to go see a James Bond play and they're like, oh, Mr. Hiddleston won't be showing up tonight, the understudy Jamie Bell is here, I'd be like, okay, Jamie Bell.
He's good.
But I don't want to see Jamie Bell as James Bond, especially when I have Hiddleston right there.
I know.
Right.
You know?
He's like the understudy, you're right. He's right behind there.
Yeah.
Floating. Can you see me? Look at me. Yeah.
I'm either going to prom with Hiddleston or I'm staying home and eating bonbons. Those are the options. All right, Ash, what's our next tale?
Dwayne Johnson recently finished his R-rated version of Baywatch and is currently filming Fast 8, with producer rumblings that his Hobbs character will get his own solo spin-off film soon. He is also attached to a Jumanji reboot and a San Andreas sequel. Now, thanks to his own Facebook page, add one more title to the list. Over the Memorial Day weekend, The Rock confirmed he is set to star in Shane Black's Doc Savage. Johnson relayed the information in a Facebook photo post that featured Shane Black and his co-writing team of Anthony Bogorosi and Chuck Mondry, along with producer Hiram Garcia. In confirming the part, Johnson wrote, Doc was physically and mentally trained from birth by his father and a team of scientists to become the perfect human specimen with a genius-level intellect. His heightened senses are beyond comprehension. He can even identify a woman's perfume from a half a mile away. He's literally the master of everything. But here's the number one reason I'm excited to become Doc Savage. He's a effing hilarious weirdo. Confidently yet innocently, he has zero social graces whatsoever due to his upbringing, so every interaction he has with someone is direct, odd, often uncomfortable, and amazingly hilarious. Schnepp, what do you think of The Rock as Doc Savage?
Man, we were talking about this last week. The Rock is in everything. And we're just finished announcing that he's taken over like a Ludlum trilogy. He's going to be some spy. Then he's like Hobbs. We're going to get a Hobbs spinoff. Hobbs End, everybody. Now he's Doc Savage, and I have zero complaints. I think The Rock should be in everything. He should be announced as a character in a new movie franchise at least once a week. And all of us are going to see this movie. I think him playing Doc Savage, I'm glad he brought up the Superman mythology, that Superman was basically kind of based in part off of Doc Savage. Doc Savage is a pulp character that came out in the same time around The Shadow, the Phantom, that era of where you'd read a magazine, it'd be like some cool cover, like the Alex Ross cover that you were looking at right there. They'd have these fully painted covers, usually with Doc Savage, like, trying to fight an alligator or something. So, this sounds really fun, and this is the kind of role that The Rock is born to play. And I think everything that he's talking about, like having the weirdness and the insecure strangeness, he has those comedy chops, and he could do it. Everything that we saw from Pain and Gain all the way to hopefully this new one that he's doing with Heart, everything in those trailers, he shines as being a funny weirdo. Doc Savage is a weirdo. He's also a superhero. So I think it's great casting. I cannot wait to see this film. I know Shane Black has been talking about doing this movie for years. He's a giant fan of these pulp films or the pulp series, so he's the perfect guy to write and direct it. So can't wait. Exciting news.
Oh yeah, I mean the character Doc Savage, Clarke Savage Jr., he was not only like this, he had superhero abilities, but he was a scientist, he was an inventor, he was a researcher, he was a musician, and he still didn't work as hard as Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson does. Like, this guy isn't everything, and I have zero complaints as well. I like seeing this kind of news, particularly because it's nice to have somebody with superhuman abilities who, as of right now, we don't have to wedge into a larger universe right now. Maybe he teams up with Alec Baldwin and they can do The Shadow and Doc Savage hanging out together, but it's nice to know that, okay, now when's he going to come in and fight Batman or Superman, or when's he going to come in and team up with Iron Man? Like, just let Doc Savage be its own thing. That's exciting stuff to me with The Rock, but if he's in a Baywatch movie, if he's in Central Intelligence, if he's in Jumanji, anything with The Rock in it, it adds a sheen to it. Like what we were talking about with Hiddleston being a nice ambassador for Bond if he gets cast in that role. Dwayne Johnson is a great ambassador for all of the good things in life. So make this guy Doc Savage. Make him everything. Put him in every movie and see if he can withstand it. Clarke, I think he can.
I think he can too. And look, I mean, I love the idea of a Shane Black, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson team up.
Right,
I think
right.
that has potential all over it. I agree. I love the idea that they don't have to wedge him in or fit him into a bigger shared universe. The only thing I would say is that I feel like The Rock is becoming the Guillermo del Toro of action stars. Like, he is just attached to everything. And I wonder how many of them will actually come to fruition. Obviously, studios want to put their money on The Rock, and I don't blame them. And obviously, he's showing up. But let's think about this guy's schedule. He's got his show Ballers. He's got all these movies. He's got the Fast and Furious. I wonder how long it will take to get all of these out and to get them all out in a quality way.
He also has to work out every day.
And that man doesn't, I follow him on Instagram, and he's up at 4 a.m. and working out. He doesn't sleep.
Great. Like as everybody here in the office can attest to, if I do an episode of Movie Talk, I'm ruined the rest of the day. Like, I need a nap. I'm crabby. I'm a little bitchy before Movie Talk, but I just I'm done for the day. And this guy, he's making movies. He's doing TV shows. He has to work out at insane hours. He has to eat a very strict diet. I just don't understand. Does he date? Does he have a social life? He's married. Is he married?
Unfortunately.
Is he married to his job, or is he actually has a human being?
He's married to a lady, and
really?
he just had a little baby. They just had a baby. He's a new father. Yeah, The Rock.
That's why he's got all these jobs. He's like, hey, he's
gotta pay the bill. Got a new baby.
Bills.
You know what? Screw it. Make him James Bond too. That's totally fine with me.
Oh, speaking of, somebody corrected me online and said Gillian Anderson is English, and I did not know that. So I learned something
Jane
today.
Bond. I want to see a female Doctor Who. Screw all this female Jane Bond. I want to see a female Doctor Who.
I want to see Scully in the James Bond universe, but I want her to be Scully. I want to see Scully and Mulder have some sort of weird... I just made the worst James Bond movie ever. Let's just move on to buy or sell, because everybody's going to sell my awful team up with aliens and James Bond. So, Ashley, what's our first category in buy or sell? I have a feeling it's going to be a familiar face.
Yeah, we've got more news for The Rock. Production on Fast 8 is well underway, and now The Rock's government bounty hunter Luke Hobbs has reported to set. Johnson took to his social media, as he always does, to unveil the first look at the character, teasing a very different version of Hobbs than we've seen before. The new movie is directed by Straight Outta Compton's F. Gary Gray and stars Vin Diesel, Charlize Theron, Michelle Rodriguez, Tyrese Gibson, and Kurt Russell. The movie opens in theaters on April 14, 2017. Clarke, buy or sell the new look for The Rock and Fast 8?
So I'm gonna sell the look.
She's selling something involved with The Rock.
I know. Hold on. I'm loving the black and white. I'm loving the muscles, Obvi. I'm loving the scowly face. But what's up? What's that there on that scowly face? Look at this crazy crazy beard.
Yeah.
I hate this beard. I hate it. I like beards. I'm pro beard, not this beard. Get rid of that crazy beard, and then I would buy it.
I didn't know that they had muscle milk in Middle Earth, but apparently, like, it was like a young, like, shredded when Gandalf is off and not on an adventure, he's just smoking pot or selling it to the kids around the Hobbit and Shire. But Dwayne Johnson, like this actually, I buy this, and I'll tell you why. Because it looks like he's finally made the transition from being the official law enforcement officer that we knew when we met him in Fast 5 to being more of a renegade outlaw, which he's going to have to become if he continues on with these movies. Because there's only so many times you can run with Vin Diesel and his family and have an adventure and still be on the right side of the law all the time. I like the way this character looks. Schnepp, you're the tiebreaker.
All right, I'm gonna buy it. You know what? You know why I'm buying it? Because there's not much The Rock can really do to change his look, unless he like when he's finally Lobo, because he's also announced to be Lobo, I guess, as well as Black Adam. But when he's finally Lobo, he's gonna have that long hair. So that's something they couldn't. At first, when I heard he's gonna have this weird look, and I was like, what's he gonna look like? I immediately thought, he's gonna rock out that Lobo look. They're gonna have a big wig. He's gonna have crazy. He's gonna be smoking a cigar. He's like, he's a biker. But no, he looks exactly like The Rock looks normally, only he's got a weird kind of pointy beard. So I'm like, look, I'm buying the weird little pointy beard. I think it's funny. I mean, it's not like this Jurassic, check out this amazing character. It's a shakeup for The Rock. It's a beard.
His character is his beard.
Yeah, it's like I added this extra like 1 inch, and it's knifey pointed. It's like you stab someone with it.
I want to see the beard factor into a fight somehow. I want him to like stab a dude with
I
his
think
like
he cut someone open with that beard, and that's why I'm buying it, because that beard is a weapon.
It'd be like Die Hard 2 with like the icicle through the eye.
People don't even know how
It would
dangerous
have
that
to
beard
be, because
is.
I will not be able to stop staring at that beard throughout the entire movie. That beard is distracting.
The beard looks like a landing strip. Let's be
Yeah.
honest. The beard looks like a landing
It's
strip.
the
little-
male version of a landing strip. I mean, look, I don't know what. I'm sure The Rock does plenty of manscaping in the land down under as well. But I don't know. It looks like an arrow pointing the ladies in the right direction. You know, like, what's up, girls? Yeah, the fun party happens down here, as you can tell from my wizardly beard.
My
that's
knife
now
beard.
creepy. Yeah, from my
Sword
knife
beard.
beard
Yeah.
that has murdered more people than you've looked at in your lives. You will respect The Rock and his new pointy.
I will not.
goatee.
I will not.
Well, before we move on to the next buy or sell, I did want to check in quickly with our own Wendy Lee, who is monitoring the chat room right now. Wendy, before we get into yay or nay on pointy beards, I wanted to see what the chat room was saying about the James Bond story, the Doc Savage story, and about the box office this weekend.
Well, a lot of people are kind of arguing about, for as far as the box office, that X-Men's a good movie. No, it's not a good movie. Should have made more, should have made less. Just a lot of back and forth. For the James Bond casting, some of the chat, they do want to see Jamie Bell. Other choices are Idris Elba, Andrew Lincoln, Henry Cavill, Michael Fassbender, but not a lot of the fans are excited about like a female Bond.
Oh, really? I'm
idea.
shocked. I'm shocked.
But here's what they have to say about it. It's actually kind of like, I don't mind this. Okay, so Cujo H says, it's not about having a female Ghostbuster or a female James Bond. It's about creating a new character that is female, not taking one that's male and changing that, make a new character. So I kind of have to agree. I mean, it'd be interesting. And then for The Rock as Doc Savage, the chat agrees with you guys. The chat is everywhere and basically needs his own cinematic universe. And Jim Jackson says, that man just keeps making movies. Grevelon says, this guy, how does he fit all these moving in? And then for The Rock's look in Fast 8, seeing a lot of cells for this. And the chat's not a fan of the beard at all.
You don't have to be a fan of the beard. You just have to respect the hell out of it.
It's a knife beard. It's a knife beard.
It
Get
can
used to
drive
it.
a car. Maybe it's
can
like a
cut
stick
you.
shift. Like,
It's a
No.
beard that can cut you.
It's awful. Also, by the way, I have to correct my earlier correction. Gillian Anderson was born in Chicago, y'all.
don't let people. Look, Gillian Anderson has become Carmen Sandiego of this show. We're not sure
They
what
all
city
yelled
she's
at
in.
me. They yelled at me. They were like, she is English. Well, actually, she's not.
Well, memory serves. I think
Damn.
she spent some time as a youth
She-
in Ireland.
She did spend time in Europe as a child.
Well, good.
But she was not born there. So let's all just,
And she's not playing James Bond.
No.
She
She's
can,
definitely not
play
playing James
Jane
Bond.
Bond.
Jane Bond, exactly.
What's our next buy or sell?
Matthew Vaughn's sequel to Kingsman continues to add impressive talent to its roster, with Jeff Bridges, the latest actor announced to be joining the cast. Bridges let the world know he was coming on board, sharing a poster from the movie on his official Twitter account. Kingsman: The Golden Circle will see Taron Egerton reprise his role as as the now Kingsman Eggsy, along with Mark Strong as his trusted tech support Merlin. Vaughn also added newcomers Julianne Moore as the film's villain, along with Halle Berry and Channing Tatum as the American versions of Kingsman, the Statesman. The Golden Circle is slated for release on June 16, 2017. Mark Byercell, Jeff Bridges in Kingsman, the Golden Circle.
Huge buy for me, because if there's one guy that can pull off a pointy beard better than The Rock, it's going to be Jeff Bridges. I don't know if he'll sport in this movie or not, but anytime you add talent to a cast that is already talented, but may or may not, we've heard rumors of Colin Firth maybe coming back somehow in this Kingsman sequel. Whether that happens or not, adding Jeff Bridges in there has never been a bad thing for movies. It even made R.I.P.D. better. It was still a horrible movie, but at least you got to see some Jeff Bridges in there. So the dude being added to the Kingsman, lock me in. Schnepp?
Yeah, the dude abides. The one thing he couldn't make better was Seventh Son. Come on.
He made that totally better.
We were laughing because he was like, hand me my flesh. He was like mumbling through the whole movie.
He was doing a Nick Nolte impression.
Yeah, he totally did a Nick Nolte, but I love Jeff Bridges. So hearing that he's a part of this sequel, which I'm so happy that they're actually making a sequel to this film, because I love the Kingsman, 100% buy it.
Every time I see that poster art, too, for Kingsman, the Golden Circle, I like it a little bit more. I like that quote in there. It just sounds very very classy, very British, like
Vexing.
What we saw. I love everything about this movie so far. And, Clarke, are you with us that Jeff Bridges is probably a credit to this cast?
Well, I'm going to cautiously buy. And here's why. Nothing to do with Jeff Bridges. And I said this the last time we talked about this on Movie Talk, this cast is getting really crowded. And that automatically makes me nervous for any movie, just because when there's so much going on and there's so much star power that's already attached, you have to give everybody their right share of time. Right. And so I hope that doesn't detract from the actual storytelling, because I love Kingsman. And also, I think it's really interesting that we're adding so many Americans to, speaking of English people, to this story. So I'm very curious to see where they go. I do buy it, but I'm a little cautious.
Maybe they add Gillian Anderson next, and then
There
because
you
we
go.
know
The English and the American.
You know what? She
Right.
pulled off a British accent in Johnny English or Johnny English 2, if I'm not mistaken.
She
Yeah.
definitely spent time in England.
Damn right she did. Thanks, Jillian. Come on the show anytime. All right, Ash, what's our final buy or sell?
While the DC Extended Universe goes through a bit of a shakeup behind the scenes, filming on the Batman vs. Superman follow-up, Justice League continues. Production on the Zack Snyder-directed team-up got underway in London 2 weeks after Batman vs. Superman hit theaters, with most of the main cast naturally confirming a return, with one part in particular not being announced, that of Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor. But now we have an official confirmation from Eisenberg himself. Speaking at MCM London Comic-Con over the weekend, Eisenberg revealed that he indeed has a role in Justice League, telling fans, "I'm kind of in wait. They just started filming Justice League, so I'm kind of like waiting for my crack at it. I don't know what I'm allowed to say because I feel like there's probably some drone following me from DC, and if I say anything wrong, I get, picked off. But yeah, I think so, and I love it, and I love everybody who's in it. It's a really talented group of people." Schnepp, buy or sell Eisenberg returning as Lex Luthor in Justice League?
You sell. Sell. I was going to sell it. Yeah, Jesse Eisenberg was one of the parts of Batman v Superman that I didn't like. I just didn't like his portrayal of the character. I didn't like the way the character was written. I thought everything about Lex Luthor in Batman v Superman was a failure and a disappointment for me. I know a lot of people out there love the movie, give it a 10 out of 10. That's great for you. I'm not one of those people. So to hear that he's back in, I thought give Lex Luthor a break, maybe bring him back in Justice League 2 or Man of Steel 2 when they finally, make Superman right again. It's whatever, it's like whatever. I sell it.
Look, Lex Luthor is a huge part of this universe when you're talking about the villain side of the ledger. So I would expect Lex Luthor to be in the Justice League. I'm selling this because, like you said, I just wasn't a fan of the way Eisenberg played the character. I don't have a problem with him being in Justice League in a small role, in some sort of, glorified cameo, so to speak. But I don't want to see him be the main villain in this again. I don't think he's going to be, but I just don't want to see him have too big of a part in here because I got to agree with Schnepp here. While there are a lot of cool things about Batman v Superman. I don't think that Lex Luthor was one of them. I thought they missed the mark on that a little bit. And when you do a character that's weird and out there, it's hard to course correct in the next movie. Like, I don't know that there's that many things that Jesse Eisenberg can do with Lex Luthor to make him different other than shave his head than he did in the first movie, as far as like the kind of annoying mannerisms that I just didn't think pay off the way I thought they might. So I will give it a soft sell. I think we'll see him in the movie. I wouldn't have a huge problem with it, but I'm not a fan of him being a lead villain in the Justice League. Clark?
Yeah, I was thinking about this the other day about the rumors that were when they were casting Lex Luthor, and they were like Bryan Cranston, Joaquin Phoenix. And then I was thinking about what we actually ended up with, and I was like, that's so interesting to me. Like, whether, rumors are rumors, but what a different direction it could have gone. Right. And so, no, I'm going to sell this as well. It's a triple sell here on the panel today. For all the reasons that you all mentioned, I was not a fan of his performance. So I sell it. I do agree, Mark, though. If he was there in sort of like a glorified cameo role, like we check in with him at prison, in prison at the end of the movie, and it's like, oh, well, Lex has been watching the whole time, and this is what he has planned, and that sets up Man of Steel 2 or whatever. Cool, but I don't need more
the last
than
thing
that.
I want is him breaking out of prison and all overacting and ping, 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 swirly, weird mannerisms. Forget it. You're right. If he's in prison, one scene, that's cool. Who knows what they're going to do?
Well, it seems like they're going to set him up to be a conduit for more, sinister forces or more powerful forces to come in and take on Batman or Superman or the rest of the Justice League. If he is in that role, if he's just like a connector piece, then I'll be cool with that. I still don't want to see him have a huge role. I want to see other villains get to shine, but I'm not excited. Like, I'm not lining up to be like, oh, right. And this is a guy who, when they casted him as Lex Luthor, I liked that they went younger, that they did a different spin on it. And then I saw the results, and I was like, yeah, I probably could have gone with Bryan Cranston or, woken Gene Hackman up and done that. It would have been better.
I do want to say, I know that they've been doing a lot of shuffling as far as who's in charge of the Justice League movie. I'm sure a lot of rewriting. Jeff Johns, Ben Affleck now are both, executive producers and kind of probably changing a lot of things that maybe some of us didn't like in the Batman v Superman movie that might have been happening in Justice League, maybe aren't happening now. So who's to say what the movie's going to be like? So I'm going to just wait and see,
And look, we always love hearing from you guys, whether it's on the chat board while we're doing the live show or on YouTube in the comment section afterwards, and particularly in the buy or sell, because you just get to see very quickly, just buy or sell. It's never just buy or sell. It's always followed by 19 exclamation points. So thank you guys for your passion. And I'll check in with Wendy again. So Wendy, the Lex Luthor news is something that seems to be dividing the chat room. What are some points people are saying about his return to Justice League?
Well, initially, the chat is selling this. A lot of them selling it really angrily and in caps. JR the King says, I didn't really like him all that much, but I don't want to recast. Just have him tone down the crazy. And Scott Curtis says, yeah, you kind of need to have Lex in a small role in Justice League.
Are we pretty cool with Jeff Bridges in Kingsman, though?
They are buying it a lot. Although not everyone is so hot on the idea of Kingsman 2. David Martin says, I buy Bridges, but sell Kingsman 2. Colin Firth was the best part of the first. Not interested in James Bond Jr.
It's kind of hard to sell a movie but buy the casting of Jeff Bridges in it. Like, how do you buy a ticket in that instance? Like, yeah, I'll buy one for Jeff Bridges.
Right.
Like, you mean the Kingsman? No. I'm just going in for the Jeff Bridges scenes, then I'm getting the hell out of that theater.
Yeah, that's right.
Best of luck, sir. Now let's move on to opening this week in theaters. Ashley, what are we going to see this weekend?
It's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows. Yay. Michelangelo, Donatello, Leonardo, and Raphael return in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows to battle bigger, badder villains alongside April O'Neil, Megan Fox, Vern Fenwick, Will Arnett, and a newcomer, the hockey mask vigilante Casey Jones, Stephen Amell.
Yeah, baby. I've been looking forward to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows, or as Clark kind of shortened the title in our pre-show meeting to just Nerdles. So
That is true.
Ninja Turtles, they're four nerdles running around New York and they're fighting crime. I enjoyed the first Turtles movie. I didn't think it lived up to its potential, but the scenes with the Turtles, everybody points to that elevator scene, getting to see them interact with each other, I fell in love with that again because I felt like I was watching one of my favorite animated shows of all time, the Ninja Turtles, the Nerdles, from the early 90s, when they were hanging out with the neutrinos or they were fighting Shredder in the Technodrome. So there's a lot of cool things that are being added into Out of the Shadows that makes me think it's going to have more of the tone of that animated classic, in my opinion, because we have Krang, we have Bebop, we have Rocksteady, we have Casey Jones, Stephen Amell playing him. That's exciting to me. So there's a lot to look forward to with Out of the Shadows. Are you guys, Clarke, I'll start with you. Are you as excited as I am about A, the animated show from the early 90s, and B, this movie coming out this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, it's, look, I think the first movie, maybe they were trying to do something a little bit different with the Turtles on the big screen, and I think they listened to the fans, and I think the fans said, hey, we like our early 90s Turtles, and we like our cartoons, and we like our comics, and let's find some happy medium to blend that all together. I think adding Bebop and Rocksteady is a great example of them listening to the fans, saying, okay, you guys want to have a little bit more fun with this one. Let's have these ridiculous characters. And so, yeah, I think it's cute. I think it's exciting.
And before we get Schnepp's take, I'm a Leonardo man myself. Your favorite turtle is?
I would say either Donnie or Michelangelo.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
I like a smart guy, but I also like a funny guy.
Smart guy and a party dude. Well, you just date The Rock because he's everything. How about you, Schnepp?
Yeah, you know what? I actually liked the first Ninja Turtle movie, of this new incarnation. I didn't think I'd like it because I missed the whole comic book train. I'm older, so I didn't get into it. I was like, what is this stupid Ninja Turtles thing? And then adolescent radioactive hamsters? That was the next ripoff of the Turtles one.
Remember Battletoads? Yeah.
Well, anyway, so I saw this film and I actually enjoyed it, and so I'm looking forward to seeing this. Krang, especially, that character is totally insane to me. So I'm looking forward to seeing this film.
Shredder.
Yeah.
What's your favorite turtle if you had to pick one?
If I had to pick one, I'd say Michelangelo.
Okay, just because the party element, the pizza consumption. What speaks to you?
Because of the artist, Michelangelo.
Oh, because of the artist. Okay, well, you went further back than I thought you would. Ashley, I want to throw it to you. Do you want to see Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows? And who's your favorite turtle?
I like the addition of Stephen Amell. I'm excited for that. And to me, Megan Fox's goals, obviously. I'm gonna say Michelangelo as well. I'm gonna go with Michelangelo.
Okay, I guess you guys don't
No
like a
love for
leader.
Raph here either.
Look, I went on a
Raphael's
rant
cool
about
too.
Raph last week, and I'm going to soften my position on Raphael a little bit because I think, personally, I thought the Turtles should have just cut him loose because he's just too much of a liability. Yeah, he's a great fighter, but he just causes way too many headaches. He gets us into more situations than we want to, but Raph does serve a purpose. So maybe you leave him on the bench sometimes. Like if you're going to go out and fight the Foot Clan, be like, hey, how many Foot are there? Only 20? Okay, Raph, you stay home because we don't want you doing something crazy and going off and ruining it for everybody else. So I think a lot more about Ninja Turtles than most other people do.
We've got an insight into Mark Ellis's brain.
And it ain't pretty. It's all baby carrots, Coors Lights, and nurdles. Okay,
Nurdles.
Ashley, let's go to Mailbag. This is a part of the show where we hear from you guys. You guys can email us anytime, collidervideo@gmail.com, and ask us anything in the realm of movies. And we also want to remind you later on in this very show, we're going to save some time for your live Twitter questions. So go ahead and fire those up and tweet them at Collider Video. Okay, Ash, what's up first in our mailbox?
Roberto Vasquez writes, hello, Collider. Greetings from Monterrey, Nuevo Leon, Mexico. My question is about the new MCU Spider-Man standalone movie. Do you guys think that we could see Spidey break the fourth wall like Deadpool did? In the comics, he's always making jokes and talking to himself. Thank you for taking my question. You are doing an excellent job.
You know, it is a great query because of the success of Deadpool and having him break the fourth wall and cracking jokes and the audience not being used to seeing stuff like that before. Spider-Man has a very quick wit. Peter Parker has that sense of humor that I think would translate into him breaking the fourth wall. I just don't see it happening. I don't see it happening with this character, Spider-Man, in this universe. I don't think that they would go that direction, though I wouldn't hate it if they did. I just don't think you're going to see it in Spider-Man Homecoming. How about you, Schnepp?
I think you are going to see it because way back when Kevin Feige first announced Spider-Man coming back to Marvel, he said he's looking for that John Hughes type of a film, that fun 80s Ferris Bueller's Day Off kind of a film. He said that, and that character talks directly to the audience, and he addresses them, and I think it's a perfect way to introduce Spider-Man in high school and a kid having this secret where he's Spider-Man, he's also in high school, where he has to basically confide with you, the audience, it could even be done in voiceover, like, everyone thinks I'm just a normal kid, blah, 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 and then cut to him, but I'm not, because sometimes I'm poof, and he's fighting, some creature or whatever.
That's good, though.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man, it'd be a lot of fun, and I don't think it'll be like Deadpool. It doesn't have to be like that. It's a different way. Just watch Ferris Bueller's. You'll get that feeling, and like, oh, that's the way they could just make it real natural.
I might have shoehorned my thinking here, Clarke, a little bit, because I was assuming that the question was like, is he ever going to like look in the camera and be like, can you believe that wackiness? But if he is narrating it, like, you're right, I'm just a kid from Queens, and I got this ability, and it's crazy, and my aunt is still hot, and there's a lot of things going on in my life right now. I could totally see that happening. I'm going to stick by my previous point and say I don't think it's going to happen, but I could totally see him narrating part of the movie. How about you, Clarke?
Yeah, I think, Schnepp, I think you hit the nail on the head. That whole 80s John Hughes vibe. I think that that's the way they're going to do it. Not necessarily the same way that Deadpool did. Not the same tone or execution. And also, I think that they will probably use it sparingly for the reasons that you pointed out, Mark. The idea that this movie still at the end of the day has to fit into a greater universe. And if Marvel has done anything right, they have established that all of these films are part of a bigger universe. And so even the ones that are different, they complement each other. So, plus that's a good point too. That's an interesting idea too. The idea that maybe if he does it in this universe, does that mean that will open up other characters in the MCU to be able to do it as well?
I mean, I'm trying to think in the history of the MCU, which Spider-Man, this is a Sony movie, but obviously it's tied into the larger MCU. Has there ever been narration from a character at the beginning of a movie? There might have been like some
Thor?
old British dude being like, so in Asgard a long time ago. But that's not Thor talking,
Right.
Maybe it was Anthony Hopkins. I don't know, but you don't see a lot of that in the Marvel movies as of now.
Did Iron Man 3 begin with Tony Stark narrating? Did it begin and end with the same scene? I'm kind of confused right now. But
I don't know.
I don't think it did, but I don't have a problem if they do this, narrative plot device in Spider-Man. It could just be that's how the Spider-Man movies are, and it doesn't have to have any kind of carryover to any of the other Marvel films. I just think it's a nice way to present the story, especially because he's in high school. I think it'd be a fun way to do it. And honestly, you read the comics, he does a lot of that, where he's not talking to the reader, but you're in his mind. So
I'd like to see Marissa Tomei break the fourth wall and look at me and Schnepp and be like, "Where's my movie, guys?"
We're working on it, Tomei. Relax.
We're working on
We
it.
got a couple of story script things we're working on. So
Yeah,
don't
I got to
worry
get the
about
nerdles out of my head. Then
That's
it's
right.
all Aunt May. Okay, let's do our next mailbag.
All right, Gary Richardson writes, "Hi Collider crew and greetings from the UK. With Paramount dropping the lawsuit against the Star Trek Axanar fan film, I was wondering why they would have even brought one in the first place. Surely they want people interested in Star Trek, and isn't it the same argument we use when discussing the DC Marvel fan war, that both companies want the other to succeed? Are they simply concerned a fan-funded movie could be better than their own, perhaps? I have seen the trailer for Axanar and it looks amazing, and to be honest, I am more pumped about watching that than I am about seeing Star Trek Beyond right now. So, as I feel the new rebooted universe has lost the essence of what made Star Trek great. Could studios lose money if fan films begin to get better and better, with film-making technology becoming more available and cheaper for anyone to buy? Could we see in the future a war for audience numbers between major studios and fans? Keep up the great work and live long and prosper." And that's a long question.
It's a great question. It's a great read by Ashley, and I will spin it this way, that I understand studios being very protective of their properties, particularly when it's something with as long and as rich of a history as Star Trek, but it's never bad, in my opinion, to have fan films come out that are very high quality, because it only keeps your brand in the ether, and it gets people talking about it, gets people sharing it, it gets people saying, hey, this Star Trek thing is cool. And even if they're comparing it to Star Trek Beyond or Into Darkness or the rebooted Star Trek series, you're still having a conversation at your local bar, in the pool, about Star Trek. That's like good news, particularly when it's something that is not always on the top of everybody's lips. So I love that there's more fan films coming out, that the technology is more accessible to a wider group of people, because you can make a bunch of stories. Schnepp, I know that you're pretty invested in this storyline. And first of all, we want to point out, I don't think the lawsuit has officially been dropped yet.
No,
I think
not.
J.J. Abrams mentioned that it would be dropped in a few weeks. Whenever that happens, hopefully it does end up being the case.
Right.
But do you think that it is a situation where the studio, A, just doesn't want anybody else tinkering with their brand, or B, that they're actually concerned that something like an Axanar could be better than Star Trek Beyond?
I think it's a little bit of the latter is the concern, but what I think you pointed out is fan films have always been a positive reinforcement of whatever the fan film is about, whether it's Star Wars fan films have been being made. And remember Force.net, there was like a really big flurry of amazing fan films in the, like 15 years ago. And it's that kind of thing that keeps, even though Star Wars after the prequels, especially, kind of the fandom died down, but some of the fan films were really fun, and it kept that alive. And I think that's what Star Trek, you've seen so many fan films from series like Star Trek Continues, which is an incredible homage to the 1960s Star Trek. It's done so well. They raise their money on Kickstarter. They light the set. They do everything like the 60s shows. I think those are things that are tributes to what Star Trek is all about. And I think the attack on this one particular fan film was ill-advised, to say the least. I think attacking a fan base, whatever fan base it is, who love your franchise, the fear was that they raised a lot of money and that they were going to be like, when you make a fan film, it's not supposed to be for profit because you don't own those IP, the intellectual property IP. You don't own that. You're not supposed to be allowed to make money on that. So that's what when a fan film crosses that line where they're like, we're going to be selling this and marketing it like we own it. That's not what any of these fan films have done. They've raised money so that they could build sets and make costumes in homage to this world that they love, and they throw it on YouTube, which is the ultimate nullifier. It's like, hey, look, it's like, you're not making money on it. Everyone can see it for free. That's how it is. And I think that the lawsuit was sort of a maybe fear-based because it's the 50th anniversary and Star Trek Beyond hadn't even released a trailer yet. And, the quality level of this film is approaching that which you would go see in a $50 or $100 million film, the effects, that kind of thing. So I think there was a little bit of a preemptive strike attitude. Well, we'll shut them down. And I don't think the studio really thought about was like, look how many fan films there are. Look how these fan films have kept this universe alive. Way after Star Trek had been canceled years and years ago, long time after Star Trek Nemesis and all these other films had come out, where they had run its course on that playing field, but yet the idea of Star Trek was still alive in all these different fans' minds, so they wanted to go back, whether it was a 60s show or a spin-off into the future. They want to keep that universe alive, and I think that should always be appreciated by everyone in the community and not ever attacked, and no kind of a lawsuit, especially if it's playing within the playing fields that are legal. If you're not making money on it, you're making a fan film. If you attack one, you have to attack them all. And I don't like seeing the fan bases attack each other. And that's what this lawsuit has done. It's turned fans against fans. And I think that's the worst thing that we've seen. I think J.J. Abrams saw that. I think Justin Lin saw that. And they, being fans themselves, were like trying to address it and be like, look, let's all just drop this thing. Let's let fans be fans, and let's keep making our movies. So that's what I feel about it.
Clarke?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Schnepp, but hasn't Paramount had a long, haven't they been usually pretty supportive of the Star Trek fan films? Like, don't they have a good, usually, I'm not talking about this one, but in the past, I'm pretty sure that they have been one of the more supportive studios.
Yes and no. It's a dual fold because it's Paramount and CBS.
Right.
It's two different companies who themselves have been, not the greatest friends in their own back and forth. So that's why it took so long to actually make a 10-episode Star Trek series, which Brian Fuller is now making, which I'm really excited about. So that's one of those things where it's like, look at how long it took just to make that happen, and that's real Star Trek. So I don't think they've been either pro or against these fan films. They've just been letting them happen.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's my bigger point, is that this is the first time that they've stepped in and said, we have a problem with this. And to be completely honest, I do understand where their problems with it come from, because you are dealing with almost $1 million budget and no accountability of where that money goes, based on this property that these people don't own. So I really do get that. But I think that it's smart that, Justin Lin is a big Star Trek fan. Obviously, JJ is involved, and he's the one who made this announcement or gave this quote. So it's good. I think it's good that they're encouraging the fan base to be fans, and because fandom is such an important part of the business now. It's we have jobs because of it, I would argue. But I get the studio concern, is what I would say.
What I would like to not see happen is I don't want to see like, oh, we dropped the lawsuit, but now we're still not letting them make the film. And I think that's very much could be the case because it's all in the wording. Hey, we're going to drop this lawsuit. Hey, we're dropping this lawsuit, but we're also, the contingency of us dropping this lawsuit is you can't make this film. So I think that therein also is kind of like a little mistruth if that's really the case. It's like, look, drop the lawsuit, let them make their free film. I know they raised money, but all those people who they raised money from are getting T-shirts and all this other kind of swag that comes with the Kickstarter stuff. It's just par for the course. So it's sort of like, look, you sign on to this. That's who you're making it for. They funded it, and you make it, and ultimately you deliver it, and that's all you can do if you're doing something that you don't own the rights for. So.
Yeah, I mean, look, hopefully, just as somebody who appreciates good content, I'd like to see Beyond and Axonar. I'd like to watch both of them, and I hope that both of them are great, kick-ass science fiction tales. All right, I said we'd save some time at the end of the show for your live Twitter questions, and I kind of lied. I said questions. I should have just said question. We got time for one, Ashley.
All right.
We have time for one golden Twitter question.
It's a good one.
Hit me.
Lido NYCC writes, any comments on Disney execs and a panic over Star Wars Rogue One?
Oh boy, well this is a story that broke kind of this morning, and we will talk about it as the week goes on. I'm sure that Christian, myself, and crew will be able to talk a lot about it on Jedi Council on Thursday, but the gist is this, is that there's reshoots that are going on for Rogue One, and according to a website that sometimes, Collider.com, had this scoop, and we reported on Collider News, where this website, where sometimes it can get into the realm of gossip, but they also broke the Alden Ehrenreich as Han Solo story, so there is some credibility there as well, saying that Rogue One is undergoing very expensive reshoots, and unlike a normal movie, the reason for these reshoots is that maybe some Disney execs are actually concerned that Rogue One isn't up to band standards. So I hear that, and I hear a lot of people getting nervous, and I think that we all need to just take a deep breath and relax and say that a lot of movies, especially huge ones with expensive budgets, undergo reshoots. Probably a lot of the huge blockbusters that you saw this year, last year, in any year ever went under reshoots. So I'm not going to panic just yet until I get some more information or confirmation that there was in fact somebody that was nervous about the quality of this movie. Clarke, is that how you see it?
Sort of. I mean, it is no secret. I think we've all said the word reshoots 1,000 times on various shows. It is no secret that large studio movies have reshoots. It happens all the time on basically every big studio movie. However, what I will say is, we talked about this on Movie Talk a few weeks ago. Gareth Edwards said, hey, the director of Rogue One, and who directed Godzilla before that, and then the small independent film Monsters, he said, I think I'm done with big studio movies now. And, to me, that kind of, okay, sure, yeah, you're done with big studio movies. You made 2 in a row. You came from this really independent background. But now we hear, okay, maybe they weren't super happy with the way the cut turned out. Maybe that's why we're having reshoots. To me, that could very realistically point to a disturbance within the Force.
Oh, very well done there. Schnepp, how do you see this?
Yeah, I could see it both ways. I mean, it's always hard when you have I don't know how they've been testing the film, but if the tests aren't coming back right, I mean, I had a lot of issues with Godzilla and, the kind of like string you along scenes and cut away to a kid watching on TV kind of happened way too many times for me on Godzilla. So my joke was, are they going to do that with, Rogue One? You're going to show Darth Vader with a lightsaber and then cut away to some kid reading a book. It's like, what are you doing? I'm sure that's not happening in Rogue One, but if there are problems within the script and then those problems echoed forth through the direction of the film and it's not working out, I don't think they're going to straight up replace him. We've heard that phraseology before with Josh Trank when he said, hey, I'm not going to be doing the Star Wars film. I'm just going to move on and do some smaller films because there was a lot of other things going on. That could also be the case for this, but that's always the right way to approach it and be, professional when you're dealing with certain situations. If they're going to do reshoots, like you said, there's reshoots all the time. X-Men Apocalypse had major reshoots just like a month before the movie came out. Happens all the time. The Star Wars 8 had tons of reshoots because we did a course correction with the script. We were going this one way. We decided to do something else. We had to bring back a bunch of people and reshoot like 3 weeks worth of stuff. Normally people would freak out, but it's like, hey, look, this happens all the time. Unfortunately, you just don't hear about it because it's not, sometimes people are really good at keeping like, hey, let's just not talk about it and let's just make the film. And then when you hear these little nuggets, you're like, what? Freaking out. I agree. There's no reason to freak out. They're just, making sure that we get a great Rogue One movie. That's what I think.
All I'm saying is that when I go to the Rogue One premiere and hopefully I get invited again and I'm sitting there in the theater in my white tux, I'm not going to be nervous because this thing had some reshoots. I don't know about that. Hopefully the movie's great and all this stuff goes away in December when we actually get to see Rogue One, a Star Wars story. All right, gang. Thanks for hanging for a few extra minutes with us on today's episode of Movie Talk. I want to thank everybody behind the camera and the panel with me today. Jon Schnepp, where can the good kids at home find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram, just at Jon Schnepp, and you get my film, The Death of Superman Lives What Happened, at TDOSLWH.com. Collider Heroes today. Check it out around 4 o'clock.
And the new host of Collider Nightmares, classy Clarke Wolfe. Where can everybody find you and the new show?
Thank you very much, Mark Ellis. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Periscope at Clarke Wolfe. Clarke with an E, Wolf with an E. And please, please use the Collider Nightmares hashtag to send in your questions because we are going to do Twitter questions, just like we did today. But please, let us know the things you want to hear about, things in the horror world or genre space that you're excited about, and we will definitely talk about them on the show premiering next Tuesday. Whoop, whoop.
And her favorite turtle is Michelangelo. She's a party gal. Ashley Mova, where can everybody find you?
On Twitter and on Instagram at Ashley Mova. Happy Tuesday, guys.
Happy Taco Tuesday indeed. My name is Mark Ellis. You guys can find me on all the social media networks just at Mark Ellis Live. Make sure you guys check out amctheaters.com. That's where you go for all your latest box office and Showtime ticket information. Bookmark Collider.com for a lot of the stories we talked about today, breaking scoops of that nature. And obviously subscribe right here, Collider Video, for all the latest Movie Talk episodes and for stuff like Collider Nightmares. See you guys in Cincinnati this weekend. I'm out.
Hey guys, if you like this video, click the thumbs up button. Also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It'll help you stay up to date with everything we've got going on here at Collider.